You know what day it is. It's your favorite day of the week because it's called What You Want Time. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite If We Were Hot Sauce Packets, mild to medium show. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Chuck. No Tony Meola, because apparently, I'm putting air quotes up for people listening on the podcast, his computer needs to update. Chuck, is he trying to dodge the show today? Or
I don't know. I don't remember the last time I heard a computer needing 90 minutes to update.
Suspect.
I have questions about what computer. Is this a computer from the 90s, like early 90s? Is this, from around maybe 94 World Cup? I don't know, but we need to get Tony a new computer, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. He must be using one of those from, back then, where it's like 50 pounds and you got to carry it around. There's not even laptops anymore. Yeah, I'm curious. We're going to have a big conversation here about gambling, about Serie A and gambling, and maybe Tones just wanted to dodge it. Maybe he's involved in the ring. It's all speculation. Who knows?
Oh my God. Now it all makes sense now.
It all makes sense.
Oh, geez.
The dots are connecting. Well, should we have a special guest coming on, but before we bring him on, let's give some context as to what we're going to talk about, because right now our very own Weston McKennie has a role in this illegal gambling probe that's happening, Chuck, and I'm going to give a little bit of an overview. Okay, so some current and former Serie A players have been named in an investigation regarding an illegal online betting ring. Okay, there's some notable players in this. Sandro Tonali, who got stung, he had a 10-month ban. He's at Newcastle now. He's back playing. Nicolo Fagioli for Juventus, he did a 7-month ban. Those two were betting on games, Serie A games of their own clubs. So that's why they got stung. But the other names are Angel Di Maria, Leandro Paredes, Alessandro Florenzi, Nicolo Zaniolo, Weston McKennie, Mattia Perrin, Raul Bellanova. There's a Junior Firpo who's at Leeds right now. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Now, here are the allegations, Chuck. These other players place bets on non-football sports and online poker through illegal platforms.
That's important to note.
It is
very important to note, because initially, and when you're I think grouped in a bunch of players, especially Sandro Tonali, that you're involved in perhaps betting, you immediately go to, oh my God, he's betting on games, right? So let's clear that he was not betting on matches.
He was not. My favorite part of the story was that there was a Milan-based jewelry store, Elysium, who's suspected of facilitating money laundering by disguising gambling bets as luxury watch purchases. They basically, like, if they owed 40 grand, they would go to the store and just get a receipt from the store saying they bought a watch for 40 grand, but actually they didn't receive any watch. They just got the receipt to try to cover their asses, as it were. Yeah, that's interesting. It probably felt really clever at the time, but those guys got stung. Now, speaking of this, give us some more detail.
You always get stung in the end. Always.
Yes, it's always going to come back around. Come back around, baby. Well, we have a special guest. He is all things Serie A for The Athletic. His name is James Horncastle. He's currently working on a book about Roberto Baggio. Can't wait to read that. Let's bring James onto the show. James.
Welcome, James.
Great to see you.
Great to be here.
We're sorry that Big Tones, Tony Meola, is not available. We know that he gives some special insight here because he's a lover of Serie A and AC Milan in particular. And we know that you have written a book about AC Milan. So you guys would have a lot of connections here in a lot of different ways. But let's talk about this probe. And from a U.S. men's national team perspective, we're concerned for Weston McKennie. How concerned should we be?
Well, I think Chuck was absolutely right to point out that, from what's emerged, McKennie has not bet on football. And so, if we go back to what happened, sort of 18 months ago now, when this guy, Fabrizio Corona, who is like a paparazzo, who basically, Italy is the place where paparazzi is from. The guys who are outside the restaurants taking photos, getting celebrities, in kind of compromising situations. And this guy, Fabrizio Corona, basically says, there are a number of football players who've been sort of betting, and they've been caught up in this investigation. And he started naming them. Some of them he was wrong about, but the ones he named were Nicola Fagioli and Sandro Tonali. And what had happened was there was this investigation by investigators in Turin into just illegal betting websites. Okay, so it wasn't even football focused. And these investigators, in looking into these sites, they looked at the users and they were like, okay, there's some pretty high profile names here. And so when they were outed, the Italian Football Federation basically said to these investigators, can we have a look at the evidence you've got? And Tonali and Fagioli were banned because they were found to have bet on football. Okay. This is different with McKennie. There's a separate investigation that has been launched on the basis of what these investigators in Turin have found. And then the other investigation is in Milan, which, as you were saying, Jimmy, is where there's this jewelry store, where, it's alleged that, players with gambling debts would go to this store and they would pay down these debts, and it would be disguised as payment for a watch, which they would never receive. Okay. And so the Milan investigators were looking into this. They got hold of some of the evidence that had been gathered in Turin, and it's there where, from the WhatsApp groups that were on for example, the phones of the players, they see that there was a poker game, and it's these poker games where it's alleged that Weston McKennie was, along with some other teammates involved in that poker game. So if you think about it in these terms, under the rules of the Italian Football Federation, that is not punishable with a ban. So that's fine. The issue here is that if you guys want to play a poker game, if you guys want to place a bet on the NBA playoffs or whatever, you go to a bookmakers or a casino that is licensed, by the state and that sort of thing, and you do it that way. You don't do it, with an illegal site, for example. And I suppose that the thread of this story, in terms of its reconstruction by these investigators in Milan, is that Sandro Tonali, his sister, it's alleged, was friends with kind of a referee who, only until this weekend was refereeing youth team games and refereeing in the 3rd division in Italy. And this guy, it's alleged, introduced Tonali to this illegal betting site. Fagioli, when he was banned, he claimed that Tonali had introduced him to this betting site. And that's how this...
He said, it wasn't me. Hey, I wasn't the one who brought it here. It was him.
Yeah. But Chuck, the thing that's really, I have sympathy for McKennie in this, even though sort of, these players, it's alleged, were using this illegal site, which they shouldn't have been doing. Where I have sympathy here, and this is the new line that these investigators have brought forward in Milan, is that Tonali and Fagioli, it's alleged, were put under pressure by the guys who are allegedly running this site to bring their teammates onto these illegal sites. And it's alleged that if you bring in more business for us, we'll take a percentage off your gambling debt. Okay, and there was one quite alarming kind of message that appeared in this document. So last week, I think it was, the investigators in Milan went before a judge and said, look, we want to take this investigation to the next step. Here's the evidence we've collected so far. And there was a message between one of these alleged illegal bookies to Fagioli saying, can you get Wes to play other games on these sites?
Oh, now, hell no. He was set up. It's an inside job. This is crazy.
So thankfully, it doesn't look like, Wes did anything other than, play poker. But that's been the real kind of that's been the new thing that's come to light, I suppose, over the last few days is the apparent pressure Fagioli and Tonali were under to kind of bring others onto these sites.
With this new information coming to light, James, are Fagioli and Tonali possibly heading for another suspension? Is that a possibility? And in terms of Weston McKennie's involvement, allegedly he just played poker. What type of penalty is he looking at? Is it, and what type of fine? What's the maximum? What's the minimum? And for me, it just seems like poker is part of, you know, being a professional with your friends. It's a normal way of life. I remember being, you know, at my apartment in various times throughout my career. You're alone.
Is this alleged, or are you actually admitting this?
I was playing poker on.
Because if you're admitting this, we might have to
on real sites, on not these fake sites. But you know, what does that look like for Weston going forward?
Well, I mean, let's start with your first question there, Chuck, about like Tonali and Fagioli. I mean, so they've already served bans. Okay. Fagioli put in a plea bargain, which meant his ban was shortened, and he came back towards the end of last season. Was even called up for the Italian national team and participated in the European Championships. Tonali's happened a little bit later. It meant he missed pretty much all of his first season at Newcastle. He's back now. There's a rule that under a plea bargain, you know, you can't be tried for the same offence twice. Okay. Now, unless sort of new developments come to light. So whether this is considered new enough to reopen a case, you know, that's not for me to say. But, you know, under those plea bargains, yeah, there is usually the understanding that you can't be tried again for something that's already been heard within that kind of sporting disciplinary commission that was held by the Italian Football Federation. So that's one thing. With McKennie and the other players in this, in terms of we've already talked about how, you know, as long as you're not found to have bet on football, you're fine. You're not going to get a sporting sanction in this. In terms of what this case that has been brought forward by investigators in Milan, if you're found to have used an illegal betting site, one that's not been authorized by the state, the gambling commission, that sort of thing, you know, it's punishable it's usually punishable by a fine, and that fine is usually, you know, pretty small, you know, really. So, you know, it's not a great look if it comes to that, but at the same time, it's you know, not going to stop Weston McKennie playing football and continuing his career. So I think that's the main thing.
He's got to get a gambling sponsorship to play in the World Series of Poker, where it's legal. All right, just get him in the World Series of Poker.
Chuck, I mean, the interesting thing about this is in Italy, like a few years ago, they brought in this thing called the Dignity Decree, right, where you know, kind of betting sponsorship is outlawed in sport. So, you know, overnight, a lot of teams in Serie A, their front of shirt sponsor was a betting company,
right?
And that all of a sudden was outlawed, and so clubs had to then go and find, you know, sort of new sponsors. Some of those were crypto firms and other things like that.
Which is let's be honest, is another version of gambling, right? Yeah. Hoping that something works out. I do think that is interesting, and we're seeing it in English soccer that, okay, hey, we don't want anybody to gamble, but guess who's sponsoring our shirt? It just feels, very hypocritical.
Brentford, you know, it's like,
we have high moral values, and then they have a big, you know, gambling thing on their front of their shirt. I think what's interesting from a player perspective, and Chuck, you were talking about it a little bit too, where you're in a competitive world. You have to wake up and you got to compete and play at a high level all the time. And then sometimes to decompress, you want to compete, but you want to do it in a fun way where you're just around your friends. There's not a lot of pressure. You put a little money in and you're playing some poker and you're having some fun. And this shouldn't be that big of a deal if you're playing poker. Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley would hold games, you know, where the buy-in was like 50 grand. Yeah. And probably more than that. But So I can understand why the players are looking for those types of outlets off the field as they try to decompress from all the pressure they're under when they're on the field. And so I'm not surprised about that. But betting on your own team is wild. I mean, I get pissed off if I bet $5 on somebody and I'm watching and I'm like, is that guy, how can he not score from 6 yards out? You know, and if that guy was my teammate and I was playing in a game, I'd be so pissed at that dude. There's no way I could bet on my own team or even against my own team, or even just so it's interesting when players find the energy to do that. How does this, though? I guess I want to, that was just me going off on a tangent. James, let's bring it back. If it's part of my charm. What does this mean for kind of the perception of Serie A? Because it feels like, you know, with Juventus getting stripped of some titles, there's just like, it always feels like, there's always something going on with Serie A. And I appreciate that they're going to try to root this out, but also I think it kind of maybe extends a stereotype that they wish they didn't have.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I also think, and this was a point that was raised over the weekend, like, you know, there has to be some responsibility when it comes to like the reporting about this, because, you know, it does feel sensational. And it's, you know, been on the kind of front pages of the newspapers in Italy. And, you know, Fagioli put out a statement on Instagram saying, look, man, I've kind of served my time on this, you know, like, I've done my ban, you know, and there is a double standard when it comes to kind of the empathy and the sympathy that his case brought up, because, you know, he underwent therapy for addiction, and this all being sort of not rehashed, but essentially being, you know, right in the eye of the storm. Again, and I think the issue in Italy is this word calcio scommesse, which literally means football betting. You know, it's a very loaded term in Italy. You know, like in the 1980s, you know, it was associated with, you know, match fixing scandals. That's not what this is. And, you know, in the cases of the players that are not called Fagioli and Tonali, yeah, betting wasn't done on football. it was about, you know, in their case, it's about a poker game. So it's, yeah, on the one hand, it's not helpful to the image of Italian football, but I do think, you know, hopefully we've explained the situation better. And so, you know, people can see it for what it is really. And I think there needs to be more awareness around gambling, and that's you know, that's something that Fagioli has said. That's something that obviously Tonali, you know, as part of those guys' plea bargains. Back when they were banned, you know, they had to go and do a lot of community service work, you know, be it speaking at youth clubs with youth team football players, going to schools, talking about their own experiences. And, you know, I think that ultimately, that more of a spotlight needs to be put on that. And more work really needs to be doing that, because as you guys say, in your downtime, when you're not playing, when you're not training, you know, when you're not rehabbing an injury, when you're not traveling, like, you know, you're competitive guys. What are you going to do? You know,
well, you want to be smart too, right, James? It's like, I don't want to leave my apartment and, you know, be around other temptations, so I want to be smart and stay inside. What do I do to keep myself going? So you're playing video games, and next thing you know, you're playing for $20 a game. You're playing bingo. Let's say like a board game. Bingo. I don't know why I said bingo. I was thinking of Jenga. Jenga. $20 a game in Jenga. You know, I remember doing that with Clint Dempsey in the hotel room. I think my statute of limitations is up, so I can go in now about all these little gambling things we did. But you're playing cards. You're doing these things that is fun, lighthearted, but you always also want to compete. Like, that doesn't leave you. So I think it's interesting to see how Italy are handling betting, and I think it's because maybe of all the past incidents that they just want to eradicate it and educate before trying to have some sort of balance, where you're seeing MLS now in England, they're trying to set up betting booths in the stadium, right? So I think comparing those two, the juxtaposition is crazy, but I think Italy have a lot of work, and I'm happy that they're starting to kind of progress and help the players.
Yeah, I mean,
what they're getting into.
I would say Italy on a range of different things is not afraid to tackle these issues. Like very high profile things that, for example, in the UK in the Premier League that happen between the league and the clubs involved, and it stays behind closed doors until the matter is resolved. Yeah, in Italy, a lot of these things are leaked before they're resolved. And that's often it leads to obviously a week of fierce, relentless press and spotlight on whoever is allegedly involved. But then that's the preliminary of an investigation. It's not it's not the conclusion of an investigation. So there's cultural differences, and a lot of people, I think, on the one hand, it's always, as a journalist, it's great to have a scoop like this. On the other, these things should never get out until they've been handled by the authorities that are there to handle them. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. So last question, James, before we let you go, we'll end on a more of a lighter note. Let's talk top four in Serie A. You got Inter on top with 71 points, Napoli in second on 68. Atalanta had a bit of a drop-off, losing 3 straight before finally winning the game this past weekend. They're on 61. Juventus on 59. Bologna 57. Lazio 56. Roma 54. Fiorentina 53. And then Milan 51. Who do you think actually finishes in the top four? Then who wins the Scudetto as the Serie A champion?
Okay, so I think Inter will be champions. I think the only kind of spanner in the works there is how far they go in Champions League and Coppa Italia. I think they can go all the way in all of those competitions. I think the treble is on. They're that good.
Nice.
Behind them, I think Napoli, despite their win on Monday night, they haven't really taken advantage of the fact that they're not in any other competition. They haven't put enough pressure on Inter, I think, since the spring. They've dropped too many points. They'll still be there or thereabouts, but I think Inter are still a class above. And then it gets really interesting.
There's a lot of teams for 2 more.
Can Roma do it? Can Claudio Ranieri end?
That would be amazing.
I am so.
I hope so.
I am so high on Roma with Claudio Ranieri and the energy and just he said, he's been pretty adamant that he's finished after the season no matter what. So can he go out like getting them European glory? I
love the fact that this dude came out of retirement to rescue his old club. He'd had his grandkids on his knee. He was going to travel around the world, see bits, because as athletes you get to go to lots of different places, but you don't get to see them. Because
right.
You're on the bus, you're in training grounds. He really wanted to see the world. It would be a great way for him to go out. I think it's still too big an ask. I think Juventus sacked Thiago Motta at the right time, and I think they will get into the top 4. And then Atalanta were really wobbling, until the weekend. And I would have backed Bologna to make top 4 again. And I kind of still fancy them. So I think my top 4 is going to be Inter, Napoli, Juventus, and Bologna.
Wow. That is a shout. We're going to hold you to that. James Horncastle, everybody.
Phenomenal.
Serie A writer from The Athletic.
Brilliant debut.
Oh, amazing. And we can't wait to read your book about Roberto Baggio. We know that it takes time to make any type of art, but that'll be a lot of fun to read. So we appreciate your time again. James Horncastle. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to get into more of the good stuff because that's what we do on your favorite Average a Good show. Come back and join us. Welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Red Dot Conrad alongside Charlie Bingo Davies. Who says bingo? Whoa, Benny Fallheimer's in the show. What's up, Benny?
What's up, Jimmy?
How are you?
Special guest.
Special guest.
I'll sneak in here. I can't really hear you. A little bit I can hear you through his.
Okay.
What's up, man?
So Benny, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, how's it being in the studio? You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Charlie came and crashed our studio, so I figured I'd crash your guys's.
That's so sweet. Yeah, shout out to Benny. He went to UCLA just like me. Sorry, Chuck. You went
We were
to
talking about gambling earlier.
Oh,
We were
man.
Oh,
playing for cards, money, and stuff.
When Lee was trying to take all our money playing poker.
We were poker advocates from.
We started it,
18
man. We
years old.
watch Rounders and all that stuff.
ooh, Rounders is good. That's a good movie.
Hey, Charlie, you know I used this this room for my LAFC podcast with Max Bredos yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
It was,
Wow.
it was nice.
Learned
Benny
something new.
owed $10,000. I remember.
Will he win?
I'm just messing.
Yeah,
I'm
Lee
gonna let you
Wins
guys
is taking
get
us
back to
straight
it.
right now.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
let you guys get back to it.
All right, thanks, Benny. We appreciate you.
we appreciate you.
Call it what you want, Jimmy.
Call it what you want, or as Johnny Bornstein would say, call it what it is, which is our favorite renaming of our title.
Call it what it
Call it
is.
what
By
it
the
is.
way, shout out. I see a comment here. MW4523. Big derby win for Hammarby this weekend. Massive. Whenever we beat you, Gordon, in the Allsvenskan, massive. So yeah, well done. Let's go. And yes, I love bingo. I don't know where bingo came out.
That
I was
was
thinking
amazing.
Jenga the whole time, but yeah, Chuck
You know-
Bingo Davies.
The last week and a half, we've gotten new nicknames. I got Red Dot for the MLS Next new protocol, and now you're Bingo. And now look at this bingo card. Ibis coming up with
Ibis
a
is
graphic here.
undefeated when it comes to these graphics. He
Yeah.
loves a graphic.
Yeah, Charlie, how much money did you win on the Hammarby derby? Hammarby winning? Did you bet? Can you?
I'm not a bet. I don't bet on sports.
Yeah,
I never found it to be interesting.
or it just gets you highly emotional. You can't stay rational when you're putting money on games.
No.
All right, so the comments and the topic we're going to get into for this segment is about Gio Reyna. Borussia Dortmund have given this young man, he's only 22 years old, permission to seek a new club.
That's never
So-
a good sign, right, Jimmy? When
No, it's
you
not.
make it public like that. You could, you
Yeah.
could do it behind the scenes, tell his agent, tell the player, hey, I think it's best you go. But they don't make an announcement for the world to go, hey, we don't want this guy. Shop him.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's a tactic. Nah, I'm sure the club just did it without telling him. I don't know. Jorge Mendes is the agent for Gio Reyna. He seems to have control over a lot of stuff. So,
Would you trust him after the Nottingham Forest move? Or
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what is he going to do at this point? You're going to
Yeah.
leave him to go somewhere else?
I know.
don't know. So,
You have to leave regardless, right? So,
yeah. So what does everybody think in the comments? If you're watching us live right now on the Golazo America YouTube channel, after you hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications, where do you think he should go? Like realistically, where do you think he should go? Don't give us some pie in the sky.
All
stuff.
right.
Like realistically,
Drum roll.
Hey, I'm going to go first. Can I give a pitch
okay.
for a club? I'm going to go first.
All right, I'll be back.
So, okay. Now, for everybody maybe driving in their car, listening to this later, fasten your seatbelts, okay? Because
boy.
I might have an option. This feels really, in some ways, I think this could be a really smart move, okay? And everybody's got to hear me out. This is a really prolonged preface to say that I think he should go to the Columbus Crew. Now, Chuck, hear me out. There might be some eye rolls happening. You come back to the Crew. You play for the best coach in the league in Wilfred Nancy. Okay, he is very good at being adaptable and fluid, and I feel like he would see Gio as a project, basically a project in reinstilling some confidence and helping him develop developing that consistency that I think that he needs. Okay, so Wilfred Nancy, I think that he could build a system, or he could fit into a system that's already in place that could play to Gio's strengths. Okay,
Can I ask
when
you a
that
question,
happens,
Jimmy,
sure.
in what position is he playing?
I would put him at the second striker.
But he plays a 3-4-3, and he's proven
Okay,
that
you
that's
could
his
put him at
formation.
one. That's fine. Then you can put him out on one of the wings, and then Gio. In some ways, I use Cucho Hernandez as an example for a lot of reasons. One, Cucho was playing in the Premier League, came to the Crew.
They're not the same player at all.
I get that. No, I'm not saying they're like for like. I'm using him as a symbol of what's possible, right? So then you go and you fit into, and listen, if Wilfred Nancy had the opportunity to have Gio Reyna in his squad, I don't think he would turn it down. So you bring him back, and you figure out the best way for him to thrive in his system, right? I mean, Wilfred Nancy's a teacher first and foremost, so he's going to get him into the system, and make sure that they play and he plays to the strengths of the team as well, right? It's not just all roll out the red carpet for Gio and everybody else has got to adapt to him. It's you got to meet your most talented players where they are. What I really like about this is that Cucho's a good example that you can come back to MLS, come to the Crew in particular, and then they can sell you back to Europe, right? So he went from Premier League to MLS and now in La Liga with Real Betis, where he's starting. It's not like he's just a bench player. He's starting and contributing in a meaningful way. Gio could see it the same way. He comes back to the States. He gets his confidence going. Mauricio Pochettino's a coach that already values MLS. Okay, no problem there. And now you're actually playing in front of an American audience where they can see you, and now you can build up your hype ahead of the 2026 World Cup. It just feels like there's a lot of good things that could happen with that type of move if he could even get to the Crew. But I feel like he'd have to go to a coach that could really nurture that talent in a positive way, and hopefully allow him to build that consistency and confidence that I think is needed. And so that feels realistic to me. It's not a pie in the sky move. That I don't know how with the machinations of MLS. I don't even know if that could even work because I don't know where the Crew fits in the discovery rights and blah 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 blah. But
did you see this comment on the screen?
Okay. Oh, so Hooligan says correct league, but wrong team. Philly Union.
No, the one before that.
Okay, that's Hooligan.
From Czar. Yeah.
Czar says Nancy can't teach Gio how to run, which is his problem. Well, so listen, running is a choice. So yeah, you have to figure out a way to get him to buy into whatever it is that you're doing. And I think Wilfred Nancy is very good at that, amongst other things.
So I want to address your destination first.
Okay.
Saying within MLS, I think that would be a fantastic fit for Gio Reyna because they're a good team and they're managed by a top coach. So I like Wilfred Nancy a lot in the way that he sees the game, what he expects from the players. I think he's one of those guys that can get the most out of players because of his approach. So I'm with you on that. In terms of his positioning, I'm not sure if that's the right spot given that Wilfred Nancy doesn't play with a real 10. And so, Kevin Cusack, actually, one of the comments that we had, I don't want to see him on the wing. I want him to see him centrally.
He could drift
because he likes to roam centrally.
He can drift, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but you can unbalance the team that way. So,
sure.
If he does come to MLS, I think that would be a good spot given the situation and the talent and Nancy. However, my pick would be drum roll. Brrr. So, like you said, all right, like you said, a step back, but I think MLS is 2 steps back. So I don't think he needs to take 2 steps back. So 1 step back, he's going to Ajax. And I think Ajax, who are top of the Eredivisie, who are starting to try and reclaim that dominant, era in the Eredivisie, I think they are moving in the right direction. I love their coach and Francesco Farioli. They play young players. We know how technically gifted a lot of the Ajax players typically are, especially the ones that come through the academy. But Mike Götze is a phenomenal player, a young Belgian. Fitz Jim, right? What about Kian?
Yeah, I love Fitz Jim. More Fitz Jim in my life.
Phenomenal young talent. But they don't necessarily have a real creative attacking midfielder. And so David Klaassen has been playing a ton. But if he gets into Ajax, they're playing Champions League. So they need more depth. So whether he's 100% starting every single match or he's sprinkled in starting versus coming off the bench but still playing a ton of minutes, I think being in a good system where they're training, where the players are encouraged to have freedom in the attacking third, I think Ajax would be a great fit for Gio. And you see some of the other Americans who players, period, who have come to the Eredivisie to rebuild themselves. A Martin Odegaard, for instance. I know he was younger, but came. A Malik Tillman now, right? Serginho Dest. Now they're at PSV. Ricardo Pepi at PSV. So I think it's good to still have some rivalry there with the Americans in the Eredivisie, but think more importantly for his development to regain his fitness and his edge, because in talking to some of the players, he's absolutely changed his personality. He is a pro, and he doesn't come across as entitled. He's a good teammate now, but he's lost the edge, and that comes with the loss of match sharpness and fitness and health. And I think we need to see Gio back to being confident as hell again, to being I'm the guy. I can dribble through anybody. I can play through anything. So I think playing time and playing at a high level, still getting some Champions League reps would do wonders for Gio Reyna.
Personally, I would love this move for him because of all the reasons you mentioned about Ajax. I wonder, though, and this is where even I don't think Wilfred Nancy would just hand him a starting position either, right? He's got to go out there and earn it.
Ask DeJuan Jones. Ask DeJuan Jones. You could trade him for him. Big trade. Columbus Crew doesn't really play. Doesn't feature in the way that you would think.
So I think this is the big question mark. Wherever he goes, he's gonna have to do some shit he might not want to do and have to earn his spot and have to fight for it in a way that we just haven't seen him do consistently, whether he was at Forest on loan, whether he's at Borussia Dortmund. There always seems to be somebody that's willing to do a little bit more of the dirty work, to track a runner, to do these little details that win over coaches. We've had this conversation before, but it's about trust. If I throw Gio Reyna out there, do I trust him to do what the team needs him to do? It doesn't always mean, yes, get on the ball and do your thing and work your magic going forward. But there's so many other facets to the game that we need you to do. And if he's not willing to do that, then it's going to be hard for him no matter where he goes. And so, yes, I like the Ajax shout. They have a player who's 22 right now, same age as Gio, named Kenneth Taylor, crushing it in the Eredivisie, 9 goals, 6 assists. He's
more of an 8 too, as well.
He is more of he's more of an 8. But he's clearly contributing on the attacking side of the ball. So he's getting himself in good spots to make plays and have goal contributions. It looks like he's probably going to get sold in the summer to Aston Villa. It's looking for like a $30 million deal, which would be a great signing for Villa. But that would open up a spot, or at least an area of the field where Gio could occupy.
100%. I'm telling you right now, Ajax would be a great fit because he fits the profile of an Ajax player. Gifted technically, can see the field.
Yeah.
And then, it's also, they're the top team in that league, right? So
they're going to have a lot of the ball.
So it's perfect for him.
Going to have a lot of the ball. Yeah.
Yes.
But still, the big question mark, and if you're Mauricio Pochettino and evaluating him from a national team perspective, can you trust this guy? And that's the same lens you should have for all of your players. And it gets to, and I was thinking about this recently, when Kerry Zavagnin has taken over for Sporting Kansas City. I'll pivot really quickly to a personal relationship. So I texted Kerry. I watched their game. They just lost his second game in charge at home to the Portland Timbers. And when I watched that game, I thought he's putting out a lot of players right now that you hope have a good game, as opposed to knowing that you're going to roll out and you see other teams around the league or in any league around the world where you're like, I know I'm going to get a good game out of these guys. And if they're not performing in one area, I trust that they're going to pick it up and take care of business in these other facets. Okay, maybe the crossing's not great, or maybe they're not holding the ball up great for us, but man, they're so good at winning balls back for us, or being connective tissue in other ways, or organizing the game, making the game easier for others. They're good at the intangibles if they're not having what we expect them to be good at. There's still a level of trust. And I use this Sporting Kansas City game, or I'll even use the U.S. games in the Nations League. It's just like we hoped a lot of players would show up and perform instead of knowing. And we need to somehow, from a U.S. perspective, when we start to line up for that game, and I wish Tones was here because I had a really good question for him about the pressure you feel. And we can obviously have a whole episode on this. Like, okay, it's one thing to host. When you host a World Cup and it's at home, dude, the pressure is like times 100. It's one thing to have a World Cup or a Confederations Cup and you're playing kind of in a different country. And you feel like you're a little bit more of the underdog and you can play in that kind of mindset. But when you're at home, the expectations are a lot different. And how does that feel? Because that's going to be a lot different. So we'll talk to Tones about that in the future. But when it comes to this upcoming summer, we have to know that our guys, we can trust these guys to make plays on both sides of the ball. And that's where to bring it back to Gio Reyna, Chuck, I don't know if we can trust him on both sides of the ball or to trust him to show up every single time he steps on.
Can I tell you one thing?
Go for it.
You learn how to trust if they are playing. These guys need to be playing. If they're playing 90 minutes, no one's going to say a damn word about Gio Reyna if he's playing 90 minutes at his next club. Let's say it's Ajax. Let's say I gave a list to our producer Des because I thought long and hard about this.
Okay,
this
we're going to do that in
for
the next segment. Save
Okay.
that for the next
All right,
segment.
I'll say it. But if he's playing 90 minutes and let's say it's in Europe, there's not going to be a question of can he do it or will he do it? He's in the squad.
Right.
Now it's on Pochettino to see, does he fit with what he wants to do? If he wants to play a 4-2-3-1, guess what? He's the perfect scenario for that
Right.
middle guy in the 3. So for me, all I care about for the most part is that all of the players who are selected are playing. And if they're playing, they've got to be in fine form to earn a spot in the World Cup roster.
Okay, well, at the start of the segment, we mentioned Jorge Mendes. A month ago, Gio Reyna actually left Jorge Mendes and joined Roof Sports. So he has got a new agency in place. Roof Sports also represents Malik Tillman. So maybe your tie to the Eredivisie is the right one. Maybe he'll go to PSV if Malik Tillman gets sold.
No,
I don't know.
No.
You don't think he'll go to PSV? Ernie Stewart?
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely. You don't go where there's a number of players in that play your position. And for me, you want to go into, kind of write your own course and not kind of be helped, with the American contingent there. Like you said, Ernie Stewart, go to a new club where, especially if they sell Kenneth Taylor, I think it still works even if Kenneth Taylor is still there.
Okay.
But for me, Ajax would be a phenomenal place for him to play.
All right. We appreciate you and your insight, Chuck. And for everybody else chiming in on the comments, we're going to take our last break of Call It What You Want, a.k.a. Call It What It Is. When we come back, we are going to get into Charlie's top 5 playmakers / number 10s for the USMNT.
We miss you, Tony Miola.
This should be fun. And we, of course, miss Big Tones. All right. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Baby, we are gonna start a fire.
From world-renowned clubs
Simply devastating.
to worldwide stars.
Wrexham have done it. This incredible ride continues.
The English Football League on CBS Sports Network and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
All right. Welcome back into the show. I am here with Chuck Bingo Davies. I'm Jimmy Red Dot Conradinho. And before we get into Chuck's top 5 American attacking midfielders, let's do some Americans abroad because some players did some things in our player pool this past weekend. Malik Tillman scored his 13th goal of the season in all competitions in a 5-0 win versus Almere City. Richie Ledesma got the start at right back. Serginho Dest not in the team, apparently nursing a bit of an injury. We'll keep you posted on that as we have more information. Chris Richards scored his first goal of the season. That made it 2-0 Crystal Palace at the Etihad against Man City. I don't know if I should tell you the final score or not if you haven't seen it, but Man City came back and scored 5 goals, and City won 5-2.
So you told them. You spoiled
I did. Sorry. Spoiler alert. Cameron Carter-Vickers scored an absolute bombasso from about 25 to 30 yards out in Celtic's big 5-1 win, his first goal of the season against Kilmarnock. Celtic are on the precipice of winning their first.
It was a cracker.
It was a very good goal. Very good goal. Gianluca Busio registered 8 duels won, 4 recoveries, and a 1-0 win for Venezia versus Monza. Very important win for Venezia. They needed those 3 points. They're still in the relegation zone at 18th spot. Got 6 games to go. They're trying to catch Lecce, who are right above them in 17th. I think that Lecce have a harder schedule going out, but Venezia is still going to need some maybe 2 or 3 wins, I think, to secure their safety in Serie A. Then Christian Pulisic recorded a career high 8th league assist in Milan's big 4-0 win versus Udinese. Yunus Musa did not play in this game, Chuck, but in fairness to him, Samuel Chukwueze didn't play in this game. Joao Felix was also on the bench and didn't play in this game. I thought Tammy Abraham was excellent in this game in particular. Rafael Leao decided to have one of his best performances, and Christian doing what he does, having another goal contribution. I don't know if anybody else stood out for you if you want to talk about one of those players, but pretty good week for some of our guys.
Fantastic week. Before, when I was talking about Gio Reyna and I was saying other clubs that I was bringing up, I was going to mention the top 5 yet. I was going to address the other clubs that I was thinking about.
Got
so,
it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And for Gio Reyna, I thought this might be a little bit of a stretch, but also could be a good situation. Is Villarreal? I think Villarreal are pushing for a Champions League spot this season. They have Danny Parejo, who's about to be 36 in a couple of days. He is probably moving on out, and I could see Gio Reyna slipping in. And La Liga, I think, is a league that speaks to him in terms of the pace and the way that they play. But also, Serie A has been talked about. So Como with Nico Paz probably going back to Real. Cesc Fabregas is a fantastic young manager. I think we talked about that. Just
Como would be great.
The game.
It's to see if Cesc Fabregas is going to be at Como himself. I mean, he can poach.
And Fiorentina could be another spot for him. Palladino, a young coach. So they're pushing Conference League. It could be in, if they win that competition over Real Betis and Chelsea, that they could be in Europa League. So it could also be a good spot for them. But I think we all have the same motive for Gio Reyna, which is we just want you in a good situation where you're back to playing, and so you can enjoy the game and hopefully get your edge back so you can contribute, be a key contributor. I think in best case scenario for the U.S. men's national team next summer.
Yeah, I also from Ivis in the chat, we saw that Adamola Lookman, who is the influential playmaker for Atalanta, is also represented by Roof Sports. So maybe Atalanta under Gasperini. I hope Gio's ready, because that guy does not care about feelings. You got to play. You got to be ready to play.
Yeah, just ask Lookman. He scored a hat trick in a Europa League final to win the competition, and he's getting thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
So
penalty. Yeah.
Ego. You better not have an ego going to that club. I'll tell you that. Right now.
Yeah. I actually don't know if Gasperini would be the right fit for Gio at this particular juncture in his career. Okay. Yeah. Let's get into your list. I'm curious. Your top 5 attacking midfielders in our pool. And everybody that's watching live, please feel free to go straight at Charlie Davies, Mr. Bingo himself.
Please do. So
here we go.
Here we go. So the way that Mauricio Pochettino played before this Nations League, he had Christian Pulisic central as a number 10. Now, I still think he's best out wide, but if you are going to use him, he is the best in terms of attacking midfielders for the U.S. men's national team. So he's number 1. Number 2, I have Diego Luna. He's played himself into this position because he's carried that form from last season into this season. He's only getting better in the attacking third for RSL. And with the national team, he's made a difference. He's shown, hey, with every minute I get, I'm going to maximize my performance. So I absolutely love his
shooting up the chart. Diego Luna.
Shot up. Number 3 is Malik Tillman. He's coming back into form. Obviously, his club form has not translated well yet with the U.S. men's national team. So maybe we see him start to get some looks there and move forward under Pochettino. 4, Gio Reyna, still there. When he's at his best, which we haven't seen for a very long time, confident and running at players. The thing about Gio Reyna is he's so good at running at a back line, committing a defender to
the final pass
to him, and slipping a ball through. Some players just can't see it, and he's able to have that vision and execute. So some people can't see it. Some people can see it and can't execute. He can do both. So, and then the 5th, which is hard to find, is Brendan Aronson. So Brendan Aronson is the 5th one. He's playing consistently at Leeds, but in terms of being someone who is that facilitator getting on the ball, I think that's it's a tough ask.
Yeah, he creates
at a national level.
Brendan Aronson creates opportunities in a different way than these other 4 players. Yeah, his is through industry, right? Hard work and getting himself, just being so relentless in his energy and his movement that he finds himself in good spots. And then at times he can make that final pass or score the goal, but it doesn't seem to be maybe as consistent or as fluid and smooth as maybe some of the other options that are here.
I got to address this comment.
Oh, please. Here we go.
John feels so compelled to say, Diego Luna did okay once. He did better
is
than
the
okay,
Messiah
and
now.
not just once. He is the Messiah now. John, have you seen the options for the U.S. men's national team in the creative midfielder role?
We're waiting, John.
I'm waiting for some other players that you would gladly put in front of us, because Gio Reyna, as gifted as he is,
We're saying
not
currently right now. It's
currently
not like
right now,
all-time
not
tournament. Yeah, all-time
next summer.
talent.
Right now, he's not playing. He's not sharp. He's nowhere near the Gio Reyna we saw dribble through mazes in Azteca and make the Mexican defenders look foolish. So
I
really,
in some ways, I wish that didn't
option.
happen, because that got that mazy run that he did, which was incredible, and the change of speed, it didn't actually lead to anything. You know, like we ended up losing the ball like 3 seconds after he passes it away, or maybe he ended up losing the ball. I can't actually remember how it finished, but I do remember him and you're like, that's the guy, but it didn't lead to anything.
And then John's answer is Weston. Just one name, Weston. Really? Is Weston a number 10, John? Best case scenario, Weston is an 8. Best case scenario. He's not a 10. So
yes.
he's not an attacking midfielder.
An 8 is.
And then he threw in Paxton Aronson. Okay. Oh man, go back to the drawing board, John. It's that is Paxton is not better than Diego Luna
well.
in the attacking midfield role.
But I understand. Yes, there's a really small sample size. Let's go in fairness to John. There's a very small sample size of Diego Luna with the national team. But what we've seen, we have small sample sizes of Malik Tillman as well. He hasn't taken his opportunity as well as Diego Luna has. No. Gio Reyna, obviously a larger sample size, but if we're talking about current form, he's nowhere near where he should be. And he hasn't been since maybe the last Nations League that we had in Dallas, when he came off the bench and scored and had some assists, right? He was very impactful when he came onto the field. We haven't seen that version of him in quite some time. I hope that he gets some minutes actually against Barcelona in leg 2, because they're down 4-0 and he got 22 minutes in leg 1. And it seems like they trust him more.
It's just like, you know what? We're going to play you, because we want to sell you, 1, but 2, we have nothing to lose. Maybe we're going to try and move up the table in Bundesliga. So we want to rest some guys. Who knows? But it'd be nice. I thought about that today on the drive in. I was like, maybe he plays a little bit more today.
I hope so. And then Tillman has been playing very well for his club. He seems to be picking up right where he left off post-injury. So I would put him, because of that, a little higher up the list than Gio based on current form. And then Brendan, I think you could make an argument for putting Weston in the conversation. That's no problem. It's fair. We see him create some opportunities, but as a pure 10, I don't see him as a pure 10. He's more of an 8, to your point. Paxton, I think, would fall into the same thing. And Brendan, you're kind of cramming Brendan into that space. He might be a better out-and-out winger in a 4-3-3 than as a number 10, but that's where he currently plays for Leeds. And even though he hasn't been as impactful in terms of goal contributions, there's still some value that I think we can all see that he brings to the equation. And you can make the same argument for his brother and for Weston as well. But there's not a lot of out-and-out pure number 10s, Chuck. So I think Diego Luna would fit that mold a little bit better. You started with Christian Pulisic. We're cramming him into that conversation, even though he's probably better out wide, like you mentioned, because he has a lot of gifts that lend itself to a number 10. And Pochettino's come out and said he's the number 10 that he would love to play for us, though I don't know if that's going to be how it ends up once we kick off for the World Cup in 2026. But I appreciate that list, Chuck. Yeah. And I appreciate John for triggering Chuck. It only took us a little while, but we had a special guest on, James Horncastle, a little bit earlier. All right, so go ahead. Good. You want to?
No, I think it's important to note that I think Pochettino's still trying to figure out who his attacking midfielders are and what formation he's going to play. And is he set with one? Is he going to mix it up? Does it change if you don't have Anthony Robinson, right? Because Anthony is such a unique player and someone that we have no, carbon copy of. There's not a player who can do anything what Anthony Robinson gives this U.S. men's national team on the left side. So providing with the doing it both ways, the tackling, the late runs forward, the crosses, I think he's a proven player on every level. So an excellent player. So I think that still remains to be seen what that midfield looks like. I mean, we had Tab, and Tab Ramos was saying MMA is still the best midfield trio, but
Right.
Yunus Musa also at this point it has gone down in terms of his performances, nosedive. So how does he kind of get brought back up? And we know Pochettino loves Yunus Musa as well.
Yeah, another shout here from both Des and Ivis in our private chat. Mako Mihailovic has 3 goals and 3 assists in his past 3 matches for Huracan. So would he be brought back in? I don't know, but maybe he should have been part.
I think he's on the same level as Zendejas.
I see.
They're both on the same level.
All right. Okay, last topic. Well, we actually have 2, but we'll rip through these. The one is Gold Cup dates and locations have been set. The U.S. is playing Trinidad and Tobago first on June 15th. That will kick off in San Jose at PayPal Park, not too far from where I am. 6 p.m. Eastern will be that game. Get it on your calendar. That's a Sunday. June 19th will be Saudi Arabia versus the U.S. in Austin, Texas. The game will kick off at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. And then 3 games in 7 days will be wrapped up. June 22nd, U.S. versus Haiti in Dallas on 7 p.m. Eastern. I played against Haiti in the 2009 Gold Cup. We were down 2-1 in that game. I was captain that game.
Yes, I remember. This is my lone national team game in my hometown in Boston. It was amazing. And Stu Holden hit a banger.
He did.
To not
they hit a banger, in fairness to them, to make it 2-1. Yeah. And then Luis Robles, who we just had on the show, was in goal for that game. So and then we had Jay Heaps, who was playing as well. Raise the Roof, Jay Heaps. He was playing. Lots of
Jay Heaps. It was a full circle moment for me. My dad took me there for my first U.S. men's national team game to watch live, and it was U.S. Mexico. Yeah. And then here I was playing in the U.S. kit in the same stadium.
That's incredible.
Phenomenal.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, last topic, Chuck, because we'll have more Gold Cup chatter moving forward. U.S. Open Cup draw is happening live on the Golazo Network. That's Thursday at 9:15 a.m. Eastern on Morning Footy. Now, we will be going live right after this show ends for Morning Footy at 10 a.m. Eastern. So we're going to have some fresh Open Cup content to get into. I'm excited about this in particular. This is my favorite competition in the U.S. I won it back in 2004 with Big Tones. So we'll have a lot to
Who's your underdog favorite right now as it stands?
Underdog favorite?
Yeah, so not non-MLS team.
I mean, Sac Republic got themselves into a final not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. They've
got a lot of those core guys still there. I know Mark Briggs isn't coaching them anymore, but there's something about having that experience. So I'd give a shout out to Sac Republic as a team to keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, what I love, this is my favorite part about the competition, is that the lower divisions have a crack at the top teams. And so I don't see like an MLS Next Pro team cracking into winning it. But
I thought you were going to go with your El Farolito. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, I love the story of
the story
of a restaurant. Listen, you know what I love about the El Farolito story is that it demonstrates that there's a lot of hidden talent in this country that maybe didn't have the same opportunities that other areas of the country have had, and when given an opportunity to go up and go toe to toe with some quote unquote air quotes better teams, they can hold their own, and not only hold their own, but win games. And
Preach.
I love that. And I love that we have a tournament that allows those stories to exist. And it's a real shame when this tournament doesn't get the shine that it deserves. How about you though? What you have any underdogs?
I have 2 underdogs. Well, one, Rhode Island is playing Portland Hearts of Pine. So both of these
that's
teams,
a great game, by the way.
That's amazing. Rhode Island in their inaugural season, shout out to Michael Parkhurst, one of the owners. And Kano Smith, the coach, former Revs player.
Yeah, Kano.
They get to a final in their first season. They get to the USL Championship final. Incredible. And then Portland Hearts of Pine, this is their inaugural season.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for me. New England, I think if Rhode Island wins this game, they could have a shot to make a good run. And then on the outside, 2 USL League 2-1 teams. One Knoxville, Ian Fuller. Shout out to Susanna Collins Fuller's husband, playing the Colorado Spring Switchback. That's a tough one.
That's a tough
and
one.
And then Nico Cantor's team.
Yeah,
FC Naples take on Tampa Bay Rowdies.
A lot of the games are happening tonight and tomorrow in the Open Cup. Sac Republic actually plays El Farolito in Sac tomorrow nights. Portland Hearts of Pine, Rhode Island kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Ooh.
Louisville City versus Loudoun United. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern as well. That'll be a good game. I'm curious to see how some of these teams perform. This is a big opportunity, right? And they all want to have a crack at the MLS squads when they get the opportunity. So it should be a lot of fun. Golasso Network is showing some of those games too. So make sure you tune in and find out which of those games are happening. But I think you can find most of them online in some capacity based on the team that you follow if it's not on Golasso Network. I love the Open Cup. I love talking about it. And I know that we'll get into it a little bit more on Thursday's show right after the draws. We get to see the big matchups between some of the teams that win over the next couple days. All right, Chuck, that's it. Thanks to James Horncastle for hanging out with us, giving us some insight on Serie A and everything that's happening over there. Shout out to our producers, Des, Ivis, and Brad for all their love and help for making the show. They do
great work. By the way, shout out to Tony Miola's computer. I'm sure it's probably got 60 minutes left on that update. So shout out to that Mac or what has he got? Is it Dell? I don't know.
I don't know what he has.
IBM processor. Who knows? And shout out to Jimmy Conrad, Fitz Jim for a fantastic job.
Appreciate you, Chuck.
Yeah.
And I appreciate I'll never forget the shot of bingo about gambling in my whole entire
life. Bingo!
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you on Thursday. Later.